Blues, the genre that made genres. When we think of the blues, we think of guitar solos with grit, soulful vocals, and songs about the troubles and heartaches of life. But where and how did the blues begin, and how has it impacted other genres we've grown to love? They say the blues was born in the Mississippi Delta in the late 1800s. First sung by African Americans in church hymns, workers on the farmlands, and eventually in gritty venues called juke joints. The early blues artists were farmers by day and musicians by night, often referred to as country blues or Delta blues. These musical pioneers first made their sounds with their voices, harmonicas, and bottleneck slide guitar. These soulful songs of hardship would end up being the roots of so many musical genres we know and love today. What made the blues unique was that it used what's called the 12-bar blues, and the lyrics were sung in an AAB structure in 1-4-5 chords. The 1-4-5 chord would repeat 4 times, giving us 12 bars.
That we want to focus on are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord.
I won't get too into music theory, but basically each section contained a verse, a matching verse, and a refrain. For example, I woke up this morning, took a shower and combed my hair. Then it would repeat. I woke up this morning, took a shower and combed my hair. Then the refrain. Drove straight to the bar, said pour me a glass of beer. That format is said to have been created by W.C. Handy, who dubbed himself the father of the blues. But there's been speculation over who was first. One of the first to make a name for himself in the Mississippi Delta was Robert Johnson. Some say he sold his soul to the devil in exchange for his talents. Another early blues pioneer was Eddie James Sunhouse Jr., known to most as Son House. Not only did these men provide an outlet for the hardships experienced by African Americans in the South, they were unknowingly changing music and all genres to follow. Eventually, this music would migrate to Memphis, Tennessee, the most famous spot, Beale Street. There are artists like B.B. King, Bessie Smith, and John Lee Hooker would make a name for themselves. Between 1916 and 1970, millions of African Americans would head to the Northeast, Midwest, and West in what was called the Great Migration. They were leaving in search of a better life, hoping to escape the racism and Jim Crow laws of the South. Many of them migrated to Chicago, where blues artists like Howlin' Wolf.
The blues is when you ain't got no money, you got the blues. When you ain't got no money to pay your house rent, you still got the blues. A lot of people holler about, I don't like no blues, but when you ain't got no money and can't pay your house rent and can't buy you no food, you damn sure got the blues.
Willie Dixon and Muddy Waters made a name for themselves. Many other big names would follow. The blues began to evolve to a more energetic sound. Instead of the slower bottleneck sound of earlier blues, Audiences were now swinging to the sound of electric guitar licks and bends, thumping bass and drums. Some later blues artists included Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Robert Cray, and many more. Pretty soon, blues was morphing into another brand new genre called jazz, which started down in New Orleans. Buddy Bolden, an African American, is credited as the first jazz artist, but the first actual recording was in New Orleans in 1917 with the song Livery Stable Blues by the original Dixieland Jazz Band, an all-white quintet. In the 1920s, the most influential jazz performer in my book, Louis Satchmo Armstrong, also referred to by some as Pops, really brought jazz into the mainstream. With his gravelly voice, his impeccable trumpet playing, his scatting, which could possibly be the first type of rap, and his charming personality, Louis revolutionized jazz by putting a soloist in the forefront. He also cleared a path for other jazz scatters like Ella Fitzgerald, who he worked with on the popular version of George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess.
Your daddy's rich and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't.
He also recorded the timeless hit What a Wonderful World, which is still a popular song today and has been covered many times.
I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Other jazz pioneers that started out using the 12-bar blues formula were Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Etta James, and John Coltrane. The list goes on and on. Jazz eventually got a bit more abstract and inventive with most artists and started to break its own new boundaries. In October of 1938, an artist by the name of Sister Rosetta Tharpe recorded a song called Rock Me.
Tell the storms the life is over. Oh, rock me in the cradle of our love. Only feed me till I want no more. Then you take me to your blessed home above.
That was later credited by rock and roll pioneers Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Little Richard to be an important influence on rock and roll music. Rock and roll was simply a more upbeat and sexualized version of the blues. The Beatles,
Get back, get back, get back to where you once belonged.
Rolling Stones, Ray Charles, Billy Joel, Cream, Elton John, Jimi Hendrix, and bands like Led Zeppelin all had hits with songs that used the same blues fundamentals mentioned earlier.
Been working from 7
baby, to 11 every night. Oh yeah, it really makes loving drag, drag, drag.
Local Boston band Aerosmith made a name for themselves by playing hyped-up versions of old blues songs. For example, Train Kept a Rollin' from their record Get Your Wings.
I'm walking down that old fair lane, I'm here, I'm in love, but just couldn't tell her so. I said the train kept rolling all night long.
Was a song originally recorded and co-written by rhythm and blues singer Tiny Bradshaw in 1951.
With a heave and hope, and I just couldn't let her go. So get along, sweet little woman, get along. Better be on your way.
Country western was another big genre that used the 12-bar blues progression in a lot of their songs. When country star Johnny Cash played Folsom Prison at Folsom Prison, California, he was most definitely playing the blues for prisoners, and they were probably feeling the blues themselves.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around a bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rollin' on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
In fact, most country songs contain that 12-bar blues progression and tell a story of some kind. Some of the early heavy metal bands like Guns N' Roses with their song I Used to Love Her.
Used to love her, but I had to kill her. I used to love her, yeah, but I had to kill her. I had to put her 6 feet under, and I can still hear her complain.
Was most definitely a blues song. And most of Black Sabbath's first self-titled album was basically the blues.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. In the fields the bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. Say where you go, do the war peace people know? Oh Lord, yeah.
There are many rap songs which use blues samples as well, but I think I've made my point by now. The blues is clearly the genre that gave birth to just about every other genre to follow in its footsteps.